Hello crafty friends, I'm Lynn from Studio Cato and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. Today I'm making a super fun and simple card using some products from Clearly Besotted, and I wanted to take the time in this video to talk a little bit more about how to ground your focal image. Personally, I found that one of the hardest things to learn about clean and simple card design. Now before I get into the design talk, let's do some stamping and coloring first. I'm using the Clearly Besotted Spilling Tea stamp set, and I am stamping two of the images in Versafine Onyx black ink onto Canson Montval 200 GSM watercolor cardstock. And I'll be clear embossing this as well using WOW Clear Gloss Superfine embossing powder. I heat set that off screen and then I can color these images in. I'm working mostly with the primary colors today, which is something I usually avoid, but I did mute them down quite a bit. And I think it works really nicely to have these muted primary colors onto my brown background that I'll be creating later. I kept the coloring super simple with fairly limited shading. I really wanted a soft look for this card, and one way I do that is with the muted colors that I'm using, but also by limiting the contrast in my images. And I do add the most shading to the cat because I want him to be the real focal point of this card. Upping the shading in your focal image or upping the contrast in your focal image can really help it stand out against a busy background or when you have a lot of images on your card. And I don't have a lot of images today, but I thought it would still be nice if the cat stood out the most. Now I am working in layers. I basically gave a flat wash to all the images and then added shading on top in a second layer. And for the cat, I think I went with 3 layers. I'm not sure anymore. I really love this stamp set. I love Clearly Besotted stamp sets because they have a lot of images, so you can make a lot of very different cards with them, but this cat is definitely my favorite. He's just so adorable. Now once I'm done with my watercoloring, I let that dry completely, and then I can go in with a white gel pen to add just a little bit of detail to some of the mugs. I didn't want it to be too detailed, but I did want to add a little touch of something. For the background, I am using the only 2 distress ink pads that I have. I am using the tea dye and I am squishing that down onto a slick surface. This is just a laminated sheet of white cardstock, and I am spritzing that with some water. And then I am using my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, the bottle of it, to basically stamp coffee rings on there. I'm using this bottle both because it was right next to me and it's the right size I wanted, but also, more importantly, because it has a nice raised edge on the bottom. You can't have a flat bottle for this. And then I'm just splattering on some extra ink for some more interest. Now I'm taking some Hexagon dies and I am temporarily adhering them in place with purple tape in some sort of pattern on my card. And I will dry emboss these. And the largest one will create a frame for my images to sit in. This will be super subtle, but it will help a lot to ground those images. It is more noticeable in real life than it is on camera, but I think that helps a lot. Now, I still thought these didn't stand out enough from my splattered background, so I'm adding more color. I'm adding that same tea dye distress ink to the corner of my card where I want my images to sit. I am going all the way to the top, but I'm not covering the entire card either. I want the side of my images where my focal point will be to be the darkest. And this is also a great way to ground your images, to put some color behind them and to make them stand out just a little more from that busy splatter background that I created. Of course, the easiest and most obvious way to ground your images with ink blending is to put down a piece of masking tape, purple tape, anything will work, and you can blend up against that so you can create a straight line of ink blending for your images to sit on. But I thought with this background that wouldn't work out, and I wanted it to be a little bit more free. So just putting some color behind those images helps a lot. Now I am also propping them up onto some foam squares, and that also makes them stand out more from the background. And remember, they are in that hexagon frame, even if on video it's really hard to see. Now that basically finishes my card. What I could have also done is add some drop shadows with colored pencils, for example, but I, again, didn't think that fit with the background because they're not really sitting on anything. I'm using some of that same watercolor cardstock to create an envelope with my We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board, and this is really easy to do. I really recommend if you're into mail art or making matching envelopes, you get one of those punch boards. And I'm assembling this envelope with the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Now once I'm done with that, the way I like to design my matching envelopes is to bring something from my card design back into my envelope. And the easiest thing to do for this envelope was to replicate the background a little bit. I'm blending on some of that tea dye distress ink and also some vintage photo. I think I forgot to mention that while I was making my background for my card, but I did darken up the edges with vintage photo as well. I love the look these inks can give to paper, especially when your paper isn't stark white. Watercolor cardstock, unless it's Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, is usually a little bit more creamy, and it goes with that tea-dyed look, I think. Now I'm taking that same bottle again and stamping on some more of those coffee cup circles. And that's it, a super quick envelope that goes perfectly with our cute card. I love anything tea themed in my cards, so I really like how this one turned out. I hope you did too. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up to this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below because I would love to read them. Of course, you can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. Tomorrow I'll be back with another Casual Friday card, and I love how that one turned out as well. It's really cute, so I hope you stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.